This is 2 Minutes Together, a ministry of Central Lutheran Church, Eugene, Oregon. I'm Vicar Ben. This week in our gospel reading, Jesus has a hard saying for us. Here, the young man comes to Jesus and asks, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus, after a brief discussion, says, "Sell everything you have and give it to the poor." And the man leaves grieving because he had many possessions. This is a hard saying, and it follows several hard sayings we've had of Jesus. A couple of weeks ago, Jesus said, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off, because it's better to go through life without a hand than to be thrown into the fires of hell. Then last week, we did St. Francis, but in our lectionary, there was a teaching about divorce with a very hard reading about divorce. And here we have this statement about wealth. And Jesus saying, not so much that it's our attitude about wealth or anything, but a very hard saying, and it's not very unambiguous. He says, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to inherit the kingdom of heaven. A very hard saying, and hard for us to manage. And it finally leads the disciples to, I think, the most important question presented so far. They finally just say, well, who then can actually be saved? And then Jesus' response is telling. He says, for humans, it would be impossible, but for God, all things are possible. These hard challenges of Jesus are hard. And they're things that cause us to contemplate and to ask major questions of ourselves. But it also causes us to stop and ask, well, what on earth? How could we possibly do this? And Jesus says, it is through God's power that God will do this for you. It doesn't mean that those hard challenges aren't real challenges for us. But it does mean that you're not going to be going through this alone. That when it says you deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow him, you won't be doing that alone. You won't be doing that separate from everything else. Instead, Jesus is there with you. Jesus is there among you. Jesus is there acting on you and in you for your entire community. This has been 2 Minutes Together. I'm Vicar Ben.